Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Don't Mom Alone podcast. I'm your host, Heather McFadden, and this is the place where I get to walk alongside you and connect you with people and resources so you know that you don't mom alone. And in this episode number 496, I'm welcoming back to the show my friend, Courtney DeFeo.
And I remember my friend Joy had this adorable little boy, and she was just kind of watching Ella and was like, so does she just do that? Like, does she just eat the Cheerios? Like, she just sits there and eats the Cheerios, and then she puts them in her mouth, and then they would color for like 30 minutes while we were talking. And she's like, I thought I was a bad mom. And I'm realizing, like, they're just wired differently.
Courtney is the host of the Pardon the Mess podcast. She's a mom of 2 girls, and she's been a longtime friend of mine. And as I have 4 boys, it's been helpful for us to share each other's experiences and perspectives and to walk through the differences together. And so one goal in this conversation is to model that for you, that maybe you can have similar conversations with your friends. Where have you been making assumptions about the other gender? Where have you felt shame or guilt about how your kids are behaving? And how do we recognize what's normal and what's not normal? And that broad spectrum of what it is to be a girl and what it is to be a boy and our own unique experiences. And so if you don't fit into anything we described, that's fantastic. We hope you're just having conversations with people, not getting locked into this what is wrong with me, that this is hard idea. Or what I bring up, if a child acts away in public, how do I manage that in my own heart and mind and stay connected to my kid? At the end of the episode, we are both sharing some gift ideas for this holiday season. We've linked to some in the show notes. My Amazon shop has some links. We want to help you get through that part of this upcoming couple months. And then on Courtney's show later this week, Pardon the Mess, I'll be joining her and we're going to have a conversation about dating, dances. What is our role as moms? Why has this become more challenging? Some thoughts that I have, some of her own experience. I think it's a great needed conversation. So for today, let's get right to it. Here we go. Courtney, welcome to the Don't Mom Alone podcast.
I'm delighted to be here, friend. Hello.
I mean, not the first time, of course.
No.
Long time. I literally woke up and I know people listening do not care how we met. Don't even care about it.
No, they don't care. They don't care. But
I was like, it feels like a long time because I was trying to think when we did meet each other, how old our kids were and just the journey.
Right.
If we're going to talk about boys and girls, and you even brought it up, like there's a very big difference even amongst our own people from when they were 5 to now.
Totally.
Like if I had recorded a conversation then.
Right.
You know?
Okay, so we were friends before I got to Dallas, which is almost 10 years ago. Can you even believe that? But I remember you being so helpful when we got here to connect me and make sure I had friends. And I was so touched by that. But how do we meet before then? Just like the internet world? Probably?
I guess friends. I don't know. Internet friends. But I think, 10 years. So I think for parents listening, maybe you have an adorable little toddler running around that, yes, it's a full-time experience of needs. I used to call it the pinball machine. You're just bouncing from, especially when you had 4 of them. It was like, I would say, your request has been noted. It'll be answered in the order it was received. Like, I cannot, you know?
Don't you just, I'm sure you did have cameras, but I'm like, because I have 2 girls, I don't even know, this is why we're talking today. I don't even know what it's like to raise a boy, much less 4 of them. Like, I wish I had a GoPro on your head that's like, what in the actual world? There's probably an animal. There's probably someone bleeding, like many things.
A lot of fluids, a lot of things. But anyway, you're listening and it feels like a dramatic shift from a newborn to a 5-year-old. I feel like there's so much that happens from they're fully dependent on you to they can actually do some things for themselves. Well, to me, 5 to 15.
Yeah.
Are you even kidding me?
It's no joke. It's no joke.
They can drive a vehicle. And you're supposed to sit next to them and teach them how to drive it as if they did not come out of your yoo-hoo hole. I'm trusting a human being that I helped make.
Well, and nothing's more humbling or frustrating as when you almost have a near-death experience and then they lash out at you like you did anything because they're embarrassed. Like our defense is like, hey, I just almost hit a pedestrian, so it's your fault. And I'm like, I brought you into this world. Like, what do you mean?
And you're not going to take me out of it. or that poor pedestrian.
It's no joke, but it's not. I know I'm getting all over the place, but I'm like, I do think people scared us to death. That it was like, whoa, you just wait. It's like, yeah, it's new and different, but they're
It's
still
just
awesome.
totally different.
Yeah.
And so even giving the caveat before we start talking about raising boys versus girls or how are our experiences different, I think there's a huge difference as you go along the way. Like you just have to be completely bendy on what was, may not work any longer. And can we have a talk real quick? Because you have 2, I have 4, like we've already said. How many versions of the gender you can have?
Correct. I'm so glad you brought it up. I tried to make one of those funny disclaimers and I wasn't clever enough this morning. But you know what it's like? This conversation is between one mom with boys and one mom. It is not all, it's like not all encompassive. We're probably going to do some stereotyping, but it's like I have a girl that's very much more a boy personality as far as loving sports. And so she's not all girly girl. So I think you're right. There's a lot of variances. So we're not going to group everybody together, but this is our experience. Send hate mail to Don't Mom Alone.
Well, if you talk about challenges, again, it's like number of children, capacity.
Mm-hmm.
Did I have a full-time job at the time, or was I working from home full-time? And throw in some neat like ADHD/sensory/ special needs. I don't know what's your gender and what's just the reality. This is hard.
It's so true. It's so true.
So anyway, I don't know if y'all have any kind of learning differences or sensory differences.
Yeah, we sure
but
do.
I think that it plays its own little role in what's a challenge,
Yeah. I just posted this week that Ella got into Auburn, which is like a, lifelong dream. And there was a lot of tears and people are like, what? We all got into Auburn. I'm like, but you don't know her story. You don't know how hard she fought to get good grades and ADD and how many times she took the ACT and a lot of tearful conversations about there's other options. You don't have to go to college. And so you're right. Like every kid has different stories. Some people waltz into Auburn like it's ain't no big thing. And I'm like, we're so proud of her. So yes, lots of different backgrounds in every scenario.
Right. So there's our caveat for all you people listening. And I could say, oh, this was a boy challenge. And you might be like, no, that's not my people. I always think of the videos that Ruth Jo Simon posts of her 6 boys. And I'm like, couldn't be more different. Couldn't be more different.
Jeannie's like, I just want to throw my phone sometimes. Our friend Jeannie has 5 boys and she's like, no one at our house is sitting down doing a devotional.
No one's doing a devotional. We don't have an outdoor climbing experience because we just don't. We live in Dallas. It's very urban. I can't just send them outside when it's 105 degrees every day. I mean, just can't compare. So you have your own people, but we're going to attempt to compare boys.
Yeah. And some people have one of each. So they're like, they know both worlds. But I do think.
But again, I think that sometimes they get thrown under the bus because they think just the difference between the two is because they're a boy or because they're a girl. Right. It could just be their personality.
Or birth order. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think this is how this came about for me. So we're real life friends. And so oftentimes something will come up and we'll get in a side conversation or we'll be at lunch or whatever. And I think for me, what I've learned is I have a tendency to make assumptions about boys. And because I have girls, it's almost like if you're a middle child and you're like, I'm always taking Larson's side because I was the second girl. So I'm always going to take the side of girls because I hear their cries. I know their heart. I know their challenges, but I don't know what that feels like on the other side to be a boy or a boy mom going like, this is what actually is going on. And so I thought it would be super helpful for people just to hear us kind of banter through some different topics to go like, this is my world. This is mine. And they're not wrong, but could we both lean in? Because I've been jabby at times. It's like things get prickly to me and I'm like, well, that's rude. But it's like, no, I just need to put the gloves down and have a listen and go like, Heather's not wrong. Heather's not wrong. And I'm not wrong. And so we're going to do this thing. I don't know where it's going, but we're going to have some fun.
Well, and so we thought we would do a 2-part convo because this is not a quick conversation.
Yeah.
We'll start here. We'll head over to Courtney's house after. Over at
I forgot I brought balloons.
Oh, yeah. We'll get out the balloons. Here we
go,
It's like
a gender reveal. It's like a gender reveal.
I told her that I saw a really disturbing video where the guests at the baby shower had the balloons under their shirt, acting like they were pregnant. And they'd walk up to the camera and say, I'm not the mama, I'm Aunt Betsy. And then they'd take a pin and pop the balloon.
So wrong.
Which is like the belly where the baby is. It's disturbing.
But let me look.
Anyway,
It works. That's a clickbait right there. I'm
it
watching.
worked. I watched the whole thing. I got to wait till I see the mom. Not the mom, not the mom. Where's the mom? Anyway, you had me. Okay, so let's start. Where do you want to start? The very beginning?
Yeah, I think it would be funny for you to just paint a picture like, what did it look like with littles of 4 boys? Like, what was on your floor? What was in your pantry? Like, what was going down in the home of the McFaddians with the boys?
I think I had to do a lot of recovery work, and I did go to a counselor after my 4th, because one thing about little boys, and I don't know if this is true, but in my mind, I believe it to be true of parenting boys versus girls, is they're a lot less easy to control.
Correct.
Like words are just flying around their heads, not really going so much in the ear holes, and definitely not to the brain parts. And I would coach moms of boys and say, if you really want something done, you're going to have to just get down on their level, eye to eye, touch their shoulder or pat their head, like physical contact, to engage the listening center, to value that what you're saying is an actual instruction. At least that's my experience. Lots of physical energy, hugely helpful. When I met David Thomas and he gave us advice, my mentor she has 4 boys, she was like, oh, you got to move big muscles. I'd have them do races around the garage, see who could, do it the fastest. You try not to do competitions because then it was another fight.
Yeah.
I had a full-on inflatable bounce house in my living room in the winter.
It's hilarious.
Thomas the Train. Put it in. I don't have nice things like you see my man behind me if you're watching the video. I remember a lady came to help me decorate once, and she brought in a glass ball. And one of my boys from behind me goes, oh, a soccer ball. I was thinking, yeah, lady. She was some cute 20-something. I thought, house of 4 boys, you think a glass ball is what we should put in the middle of a coffee table? My brother, my husband's cousin, who's a well-known speaker, added this to one of his talks. He was at our house. There was a wire bowl with some fake pears. I think my mom bought them. So he's in our living room, a bowl of fruit, and he takes a picture because he looks, and not only does one pear have a bite out of it, every single pear in the bowl has a bite out of it. And his point was like, if you have a bowl of fake fruit in your house and there aren't bites out of it, I question your commitment to parenting. Like, what kind of curiosity are you encouraging your children
It's
that they
like
aren't
you
just
might be a redneck if. It's like you might
be a mom
have
of
a
boys
boy
if. Yeah. So those kinds of things. But I think honestly, like where my stress level would come is being out in public with all 4. Keeping them safe was hard. And then dealing with everyone's expectations of how they should behave in public.
Yeah.
When you're in an urban area was challenging. I had to work through on my own, like not to hurt my relationship with my boy because I cared more about this stranger's thought of me. That took I don't even know that I figured it out still.
Yeah. That's so good.
It's hard, ladies, if you have that, whether it's a girl or a boy that's throwing a tantrum in public or.
Absolutely.
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And since it's November, the month of gratitude, I want to take a second and thank some women in my life who have helped me walk through a lot of different emotions in the last few months, grief and loss and anxiety and stress. And Amber, Carissa, Holly, Jessica, Megan, Carrie, Cynthia, Abby, Lizzie, Angela, so many more I could name. And I feel incredibly blessed that I have an amazing group of friends that walk through life with me. And I know sometimes it's hard to remember what the good things that are happening in our life. And sometimes we need support. And that's why I love partnering with BetterHelp, because I think one place we can get support is through therapy. I've benefited from therapy in the past. And I just think that whatever you're walking through, it can be a great thing to give you some maybe positive coping skills. Maybe you need to set boundaries with the holidays coming up. Maybe some family of origin issues are stirring up in your heart and your soul, and you just want to be the best version of yourself for your family. And as moms, it can sometimes be hard to set aside that time. So if you've been thinking of starting therapy, I'd love to connect you with BetterHelp and for you to give it a try. It's entirely online, so it's convenient with your mom's schedule. It's flexible. It's suited to you. You just fill out a brief questionnaire. You'll get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. So let the gratitude flow with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/DMA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/DMA.
I remember when we were somewhere. So you have mom friends. I feel like I had way more mom friends when because we were just trying to entertain each other. And I stayed at home. So we were like, we would meet up our small group or whatever. And I remember my friend Joy had this adorable little boy. And she was just kind of watching Ella and was like, so does she just do that? Like, does she just eat the Cheerios? Like she just sits there and eats the Cheerios and then she puts them in her mouth and then they would color for like 30 minutes while we were talking. And she's like, I thought I was a bad mom, and I'm realizing like they're just wired differently. Like, and it was a little bit. I'm glad you brought that up because Ella was just chill, introverted. Like I was like, I crushed it, so I'm going to write a mom book. And then Larson came around, and she is another girl, but she was wild. Like I was like, what is wrong with her? Like she would jump out of the bathtub and throw things. And my friends with boys were like dying because they're like, yes, she's got
Finally.
one that has got some energy. But I do have nephews and I remember, and a little brother, I remember watching them going like, never did it dawn on me to dive off of that. Like my girls didn't think to put that in their nose. Like it just.
Oh yeah. I got the call from the grocery that there was a bead up the nose. Mm-hmm. Yep. No. When you come home, there's a bead up the nose. And totally like for one of mine, we would say alive till 5 because of the risks he would take. Like there was no concept of mortality, like none. And yeah, I think definitely like the second born thing comes into this. You never think a child will go near a toilet with their hands.
Yeah.
And you're like, how would that happen? And then you're potty training your first and the second's like all the way playing in there while they're peeing on their head. And it's like,
I remember the other day,
the
we know we have mutual friend, Sissy Goff, and her nephew was in town. And and she was doing a podcast with like the Enneagram lady, Suzanne Stabile. She was like, it's just an hour. Can you take him? And I'm like, totally. He's the cutest little boy. Like, she's like, no, ask a babysitter. I'm like, no, I'm doing it. So I took him to the aquarium and I was like slap worn out. I'm like, it was just another octave or another speed or what's another interval of like energy. Like he was on the thing, jumping off, circling. And I was like, I didn't bring the right shoes for this. So it really is another level of speed and energy and noise that I remember that my kids had too, but it's just different. It's different. Like, mine would pull a doll over there and feed it and, put it under the blanket. And then their little boyfriends would come over and throw it across the room. And you're like, it's just so interesting to me how differently these kiddos are raised. Do you think it was just, I remember my nephews too had noises. There was a lot of noises.
Yeah,
So it wasn't
there's
just
a
the
lot.
truck moving. It was the noises that went along with that. Was that something?
Yeah, I think I go back and I watch videos. I'm like, oh yes.
Yeah.
These were the sounds. This was and I have some sensory stuff. Like I get very overstimulated. They didn't have noise canceling headphones back then. I would have benefited from that.
Yeah.
Because I think I was just pushing through. Like a good mom just grins and bears it. But then I would get to my breaking point and then I'd just be yelling and then I feel guilt and then I feel shame. And like, if I would have had any knowledge of the sensory system to recognize, oh, you need a sensory break. Like you need some silence. They're not being naughty. They're not like, it's not like they're being too much. They are being themselves. If they weren't evil or needing character correction. You know what I'm saying? Like sometimes we make these things into, anyway.
Like I haven't reflected back. I'm sitting here going like, what was it like? I haven't thought about this in so long. So I'm like, we did make believe all the time? Like, did your kids do make believe? Like the girls were, and I'm a girly girl and I was a ballet teacher. And so it was like tutus everywhere, dancing everywhere, singing, craft
We did
time.
a lot of dress up. Yeah.
Glitter.
And my oldest we called him the cruise director because he would get them all engaged in something.
Yeah.
And so, like plays, and that would be a thing too.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Definitely a lot of crafts, definitely a lot of glitter, cutting, scissors, definitely a lot of baby dolls at our house for sure.
But with the crafting, this is my question, because I love crafts. Like that's one of my love languages. I'm going to talk to the guy that wrote the book. There's maybe 6. And I would get all the stuff. I mean, I still have a craft closet. Like I love crafts. And I would get it out and it would last 2 minutes.
Yes.
And it would be so frustrating.
No, it was
like, I thought this was going to be an hour experience.
No, Play-Doh, you could throw it down and they're there for a while, for sure.
Your daughters, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And again, I don't know if that was my kids, but I did notice that. And that was what my friend Joy said, is like, that would have worked for 30 seconds. So I think maybe we're onto something there, the time span. So y'all, DM us if you're like, yep. Like tell us,
if these resonate. Maybe we just made some generalizations that aren't true. Yeah. I think we should hit on the emotional and drama that we hear girls. Like girls are very dramatic, very emotional. Because I have thoughts on that. Do you find that to be true?
Yeah, I think that can be a frustrating stereotype too, where you're like, you don't want to agree with it because you're like, oh, I'm a woman. So you're like, and so then you have a mom that may have some high emotions like this one right here. And then you put it in a pot with some other girls that have some emotions. And Ron's like, what is happening right now? Everyone's crying. But I do think I had asked him, I was like, do you want to try for a boy? And he's like, nope, this is good. And I really did want a third, but we didn't end up having it. But I think he was like, I love this. Like he's such a good girl dad. But I do think what I noticed, I had a behavioral psychologist come over when Larson was like 3, and she was going through some massive temper tantrums. And she watched us play. It was so helpful. And she said, less words. You were trying to like talk to a 3-year-old and convince her. And she was like, less words. And so they would reel and get sad and cry and explain to me. And she's like, she's 3 years old. The answer is, no, you may not get on top of the counter. You get down, I'm the mom. And so she really helped me to go like, I love that you want her heart to feel good and you want her to love, the boundary you just set in place, but she's 3. So I do have seen that over time and definitely managing but there's a good side of it too. So like Larson, well, both of mine, but Larson is a feeler. And so where it has every strength has a corresponding weakness, right? So where those feelings can be overreacting or caring too much or worrying, she's the most thoughtful person in the room. Like she's going to notice what's going on. She's going to sit by the friend. She's going to be the one organizing at the end of the year a card for the teacher and a gift and everybody go in on it. So there's benefits that come from it. And I think that is a caution for, I guess, moms of girls to say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Don't say this is who you are. You're so dramatic. You're so emotional. Can they be? Totally. Can they be super sweet and nurturing and thoughtful? For sure. Yes. So there's different seasons. Larson is an interesting one. She was like my strong-willed child, the one I said came out throwing and punching from 0 to 5. And then around 5 to 14, she just chilled. She wasn't because I thought she's going to be in jail. And now that little
right? We all project.
Feisty spirit has come back in her as a teenager. And it's interesting to watch, to go okay, she's always been this girl, but there was just this lull in the middle that was she's gotten over it. I'm like, no, she was a different age. She's a different age.
And what is why do we need to go over it? Right. Changing our perspective on it. Yeah.
Exactly. Does that help give you context to the?
No, totally. Because I was the quote unquote sensitive little girl.
Yeah. I like to call tender heart.
Tender. It was, even marriage. Bruce is like, well, why don't you just be less sensitive? I'm like, yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
Or you could have some feels.
I'm like, sure, I'll just turn that off. That's been on my entire life. But I have a variety of that in my boys. And so, and even one that you would think from the outside is the most strong-willed is the most tender on the inside. And I think it's this steel cage around his sensitive heart or his tender heart. And so there's that. And then I think some of them that are very unaware of their emotions still have emotions. Yeah. We're all emotional beings. Yeah. It's just coming out sideways as anger. And they haven't, we had the picture on the wall of all the different faces with the emotions. If y'all need that for your boys or girls, I think that we all have them. And so it's really just identifying in the moment what it is and naming it and not just assuming because you have boys, they aren't emotional.
Yeah, I agree. I think nobody talks about, and we're going to get to dating and high school and the older kids in the next One, but I do think I've heard from many moms that nobody talks about puberty or like that change in the boys. It's like they get sad, they get angry, like their
Oh,
bodies and emotions are changing too, and no one really talks about it.
anxious?
Yeah.
Incredibly anxious, especially if they do have that sensory system. For those of you who have a boy like that who struggles to regulate, I have learned that his body, because he's not interpreting, even spinning in a chair. I have a spinny chair over here. If he's spinning in a chair, this is like the most basic example. His brain was not processing, oh, I'm dizzy.
Yeah.
I should stop. There was no eye movement, nystagmus. It's just like going in. So when that happens, your body's dysregulated and it's telling him to go into fight or flight, which then is this angry pushing back. His anxiety looks like meanness. He's short with his brother. Oh, stop chewing, or oh, this is bothering me. It's like, oh, like Leanne Morgan, we were talking about her.
Oh
You
my
and I
word.
love
Funniest.
Leanne Morgan. She's talking about which is harder to raise, boys or girls. And she, everyone's like, oh, girls are harder. And she's giving the example of her daughter that's mean,
Yeah.
And her examples were all from like this summer before her daughter was going to college.
Yeah.
And she was saying how she was yelling at them for chewing, like they couldn't chew in their own house.
This is happening in my house.
And it is anxiety.
Oh, wow.
It is them incredibly anxious about this big transition. And it's coming out at the dog and it's coming out at you and it's every little input. And it's like, anyway.
Okay, that's so helpful. Hey, let me ask you this. So obviously, again, I feel like we need to give a disclaimer, but it is easy to bond with my girls. Like we like the same stuff. We like shopping. We are both girls. We get our nails done. We did dance recitals, like all those things. So what does that look like? I know that the boy mom are incredibly bonded. Like there's just something so special there. So speak to the mom that even has like a little tiny boy that's like, well, we have stuff to do together. What does that look like for you and your boys?
I think that what is different, and maybe again, I'm not all the way through this, I'm just making an observation. What I think that is different between raising boys and raising girls is when they were little, this was incredibly easy for me. Like we did all the things.
Yeah.
When they transition through puberty, they want to do that with their dad.
Mm. Here come the tears. Here come the tears.
Crying, you're crying.
Yeah, that's real. That's real. So it's like a pulling away that you're not quite ready for.
It's a huge grief for me right now.
Yeah.
Like we have that stupid skylight frame in the kitchen.
Yeah.
Shout out to Skylight, making me sad every day. And the boys are all hanging on me, and we go to the zoo and pumpkin patch and all the things. And I know I got to pull it together so people can hear me. I know that those experiences were chaotic. I'm not, glass half full situation. I get that they were chaotic, but the reality is connecting with them was so easy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now I'm lucky. It's like the example, I feel like I've seen a lot of celebrities lately talking about this, that it's like having 3 boyfriends that rejected you or 4, you know what I mean? Like,
yes.
I think it helps that I still have a 4th that is little. He's still 12.
Yeah.
And he loves to hang out, and he and I can watch a show together. And he and I went to the state fair yesterday, and he is still in that stage where I am fun and we can do fun experiences together. And I'm hopeful that as he goes then into that, where it's that separation, which is healthy. Like I shouldn't be in his girlfriend for his whole life. Like he needs to.
But it is an adjustment.
It is a grief. And so, but my oldest has worked through that and he's coming back around. And so like when he's in town, just like he and I will go get lunch together and talk. And I think I've always, because I don't know if I was a speech pathologist or because I am a communicator, I've always been able to talk to my boys very easily. So conversation is our connection point for sure. But it doesn't look like going to get our nails done. I mean, food. Food, I would say. Food is the way to the boys' heart.
Yes.
Food. I will pay for this food. You've got them. Whether you're parenting a girl, a boy, a mix, you have a new baby, whatever it is, you throw holidays into that equation and you know who ends up on the bottom? You. And I want to connect you with something, a product that will give you a little time for yourself and take care of your hair. So it goes beyond just looking good. You feel good about yourself inside and out. It's called Vegamore, and it's trusted by millions. It will give your hair the love and the care it deserves. They have vegan and cruelty-free formulas that nourish and revitalize your strands while you indulge in a little bit of much-needed pampering. Let's face it, who couldn't use a bit more me time this time of year? So I've been using Vegamore for a few months, and their best-selling Grow Hair Serum has truly become my holy grail. I've seen such a noticeable difference. My hair looks and feels stronger and healthier, and it's really a fun part of my daily routine. With the holidays upon us, why not share the gift? Vegamore products make perfect presents for anyone looking to spoil their loved ones. They've launched 2 limited edition holiday sets. They're really beautifully packaged in marble and gold gift boxes, so no wrapping is needed. It's a thoughtful way to show someone you care. Maybe you have a mom friend that you want to encourage her to give herself a little self-care. So if you need something, don't forget to treat yourself. Vegamore has 4 new holiday exclusive bundles that come with free full-size gifts when you subscribe. So their auto-replenish options make it easy to stay on top of your hair goals, keep your routine effortless all season. So this holiday season, give the gift of great hair with Vegamore. There's something for everyone, including you. Visit vegamore.com/DMA, code DMA to shop. That's Vegamore, VEGAMOUR.com/DMA, code DMA. This message is sponsored by Green Light. I don't know who's easier to raise, girls or boys, but either way, some things about parenting does get easier. They can do things for themselves. They can help around the house. They can get jobs. Some things can be a little tricky to navigate, especially if it's your oldest child. And one of those things is talking about money. The fact is, kids won't really know how to manage their money until they're in charge of it. So one way to give them freedom to do that is to use a tool my brother told me about. It's called Green Light. So Green Light is a debit card and a money app, and it makes it super easy for parents to send money to their kids and keep an eye on their kids' spending and saving. And it kind of gives your kids money confidence and lifelong financial literacy skills. You'll hear in my episode with Courtney about dating. Well, sometimes my boys, especially even the ones with jobs and cars, will be out and they want to pay for dinner. And the way they've done that is with their Green Light card, and they can save money from their job and they can move it and to the spending part of the app. And I think it has been really helpful for them to see why we may say, let's just get water at dinner, how things add up. I also love that the Greenlight app has a chores feature where you can set up one-time or recurring chores customized to your family's needs, however you want to handle that. You can do allowances or whatever you think is best, and that can change for each kid. You can have a different allowance amount for each kid. We have 4 boys on 4 different cards. Millions of parents and kids are learning about money on Greenlight. It's easy, it's convenient, it's a great way for parents to raise financially smart kids and families to really navigate life together. So sign up for Greenlight today at greenlight.com/DMA. That's greenlight.com/DMA to try Greenlight today. Greenlight.com/DMA.
Would you agree with the statement? I heard it when the girls were little, is that the girls are easier younger and they're harder older. So rest in that, boy moms, they're crazy and harder earlier, and then it switches. Do you agree with that statement? That I heard it all the time.
I think parenting's hard.
The
You know what I
end.
mean? Like
Full
parenting's
stop.
hard, full stop. I also do think these phones have made the teen years hard for all of us, as far as the inputs they're getting are not from this, like our voice is not the loudest voice.
Yeah.
Before it used to be, well, now their friends are their louder voice. And we could kind of semi influence that. You know, it's going to be people in your community. It's going to be people in their school. We really don't even have that. I mean, it is the world's voice is so loud. And so I honestly think whether you have boys or girls, like, I mean, I just think it's
Parenting is hard, full stop. That's the quote. That's the clip. Heather, I just want to go back because you do this really well and I don't, and just recognize it. I'm just glad you were real and that people are going to appreciate you saying, like, this is hard. Like, and it's okay to, I love that you use the word grief because it is like, and I have not cried as much as you would think, Ella, senior year, but the day or her like first day of senior year, I could not stop crying. And I just let
yeah,
myself cry all day. And it
yeah,
was like, I've just loved it so much. Like, I just want to go back. I want to go back to first grade, third grade. And so I think people hearing that, like, it's awesome. Like seeing who she is, getting to like go through these big adult decisions are hard and awesome. But like, it's just, there's a weird mix. And we've said it 100 times. Everybody is like, you can hold both. You can hold this joy and excitement for where they're going and who they are. But you can also go like, dang it, I kind of liked that phase when they sat in my lap and gave me physical attention. But are your boys huggers at all, or is that a
Oh,
distance
our
too?
whole family's pretty affectionate.
Good.
Well, there's one I keep trying to get to hug me. He's never been real affectionate with anybody ever. But now it's like our joke.
Yeah.
But like in general, like my husband's super affectionate. He's, handsy is what they call him. But no, I think, yeah, no, they really are affectionate. I think what I was going to say, listening to you and even that stupid skylight frame, and I think you would agree with this, I don't regret the time
No.
and energy I put in those years. And this
No.
isn't to shame or guilt people, but at the same time, I didn't have the phone distracting me.
Correct.
And I really loved those outings, and I don't think they were wasted. And I do think that they kind of were this core connection point that all of our family can go back to. And so I would encourage you, like, it is the easy route is to just stay home and get on the screens.
Or give them stuff, which I think.
Or give stuff.
So
Yeah.
do you just say you focused on experiences, getting them out of the house, doing stuff together?
Yeah. Or I mean, if you're not that kind of mom, if you're not like the mom that energizes, I think you and I more that energizes being with people, being out.
Yeah.
I think when you're home, like, what is that experience? Like, are you with each other? I don't know.
Well,
What kind
remember
of
that
memories do you wanna have?
TechWise book? I think I read
Yeah.
the first chapter as I do. Heather and I get like 3,000 books a week. And I'm
It's
like, I
fun.
think I read the first chapter of that one. But the point I took away from that TechWise book was like, get stuff in the house that is an option. Like if they have no other option, they're going to choose the device. And so
Yeah.
I remember after that book going and putting a ton of games in our first cabinet of the TV. So it's easy, accessible. And I have to fight for it. I'm probably the worst phone addict in the whole family. And Larson loves games. And so if I catch her eye across the thing, she's sometimes picking up her phone because nobody's talking to her. And that's on me to be like inviting her to engage. And so that would be, I would say, what else would you say? I have one more question for you. Like, would you say to young boy moms to say, get in your house? Like, what is the thing? Outdoor toys, punching bag. What do they need?
Yeah. Like if you're getting Christmas ready, I would say I wouldn't also regret all the time we spent reading books aloud. Now, my boys don't read. Okay. They just don't read. I don't know. I'm like, when have you read a book? I don't know. But I don't regret like hours upon hours of reading books aloud in bed, having books around. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, and even if it doesn't seem like they're paying attention, you
They
can read
are.
chapter books aloud while they're playing Legos. Like that is a real thing. And that actually, not to put guilt again on people, but give it a shot.
Love that.
Make a memory. But then as far as I think, yes, the bounce house in the living room, if you're desperate, if you live in a cold climate, even if you live in Dallas and it's hot all the time, move those big muscles. A little trampoline that has a handle.
Yes.
When I would, like one was fighting with the other one, when there was kind of chaos, this is what my mentor would tell me. She was like, they need to move big muscles and you need to go tell them, hey, go jump on the trampoline 10 times. Like give them an objective. Help me move this big bag. Like give them a job.
Mm-hmm.
But then that, and then any kind of scooter, like a handle scooter, we had them outside. Those were really popular with my boys. We had a thing that you could put it between two trees that they could walk across. Kind of
That's
like
good.
a kite rope.
Yep.
I would see them on that, or like even a hammock we would hang out. They would be on that. A swing for sure. Swings were
Swing
big,
for sure.
big help.
when we moved in this house in Texas, it had a playground like thing. What do you call it? Like a play set, with a
Yeah, yeah,
swing and a
yeah.
little climbing, like the old school playhouse.
Yeah.
I was so excited. Larson lived on that thing. I mean, and she was my energetic one that had to just be moving all the time. She's also recently got one of those, it's like a Bosu ball that like you work on your
Yeah.
balance. And
Yeah, yeah, from
she's
like
on
yoga or
that.
whatever. Yeah,
We
yeah, yeah.
roller skated inside. We loved some roller skating.
Yes.
We hoverboarded inside a lot.
Yes. All of
And
those
then
things.
one tip I would give to moms of girls, and this might work for boys too, but like you said, they didn't have huge attention spans, but we did those like plastic shoe boxes and we would put the different thing in it. So this box was hair tools, and then we would call it the Hearts and Horses. They called it Hearts and Horses Salon. They would get that out. I went to the dollar store and filled it with like combs, rollers, like all this stuff. And they would try to do Ron's hair. They would do my hair. I ended up getting one of those Barbie dolls that just had the hair at the head,
Oh,
so they
yes.
braid that. Then we had a school teacher one, so it was time to play school. They brought that out. We had markers. So those were fun to be like, you would hide them and they would get over it. And then when it came back out again, they were like, it's time to play whatever. And so we had one that was the Chick-fil-A
Genius.
box, and we had fake waffle fries in there, and we would make a drive-through in the all the neighborhood. Me and another dad that was home a lot. We made a drive-through in the driveway with all these things like pool noodles, and they would go through and be like, I'll have a number one with a whatever. So just whatever. One day they sled down a grass hill on boogie boards for hours because it
Oh,
was,
yeah.
it's like whatever you got. Like
And
just
I'm sure these days Pinterest is. I remember I had the dollar store. They're basically water guns, but you pull
yes.
it back and to suck up the water from a bucket, and
Yeah.
then you push it and the water shoots out. It couldn't be easier.
Oh,
But
water is game changer.
I took the chalk and I drew targets on the fence with chalk.
Oh, smart.
So then they had to shoot the chalk versus each other because the shooting each other was making them mad, like sibling stuff. I'm sure with girls, is sibling stuff a thing?
I mean, it started to when they were in, I really struggled because I wanted them to be best friends. And so I've listened to your episodes on sibling conflict because Ron was like, P.S., this is a normal thing. But they sure did. They fought over toys, and we would say, if you're going to fight over it, you can't have it. So we'd take stuff away. But they weren't punchy. And I think that's a
Okay.
difference. Like they're not going to pull off and shove each other. They're going to be
Mhm.
wordy about it and cry. So that's a different little thing.
There's more verbal attacks than
Correct.
physical. And I think too, people would think mine would be physical all the time, and no, mine were pretty verbal in their attacks.
Yeah. One last gift idea.
Yeah. Please.
Let's do a kitchen. I mean, a kitchen and
Mhm.
water. And I think even boys get into it. We have one at my parents' house, and every kid is like obsessed with it at a certain age range. And it's just like, I don't know how many pickle sandwiches pretend I had to eat, like tea parties. Like if they can, especially if you get water involved. So it's like put them on the porch, put the kitchen out there, and they will cook up a storm. So
Yeah,
fun.
for sure. Anytime you can add water, like if my boys were all melting down and they were small enough, just throw them in the bathtub. It doesn't even matter how long. You know what I mean? It could be like 4 p.m. I don't care.
Oh
That
my
would
God.
calm them down. Or there was a season when they had so much energy that it would be after nap time. I'd give them all snacks, and I would take them to the gym because the gym had childcare.
Yes, please.
If we're going to have the hardest time of the day, let's have it for someone else, please.
All right.
And then I could get a workout in. And I was going to say with the sibling things, my friend, Dr. Kelly Jameson,
Yes.
she said during a 45-minute play session, siblings ages 3 to 7 engage in 3.5 conflicts.
Yes, they do.
In 45 minutes. And then ages 2 to 4, 6.3 conflicts an hour. One fight every 9.5 minutes.
And a mother right now is like pumping her fist. I feel so seen.
This is real. It's all about working through it. And yeah.
One big aha that behavioral lady told me too, she was like, and this was in the days where I thought, why not write a parenting book? It's just so ridiculous looking back. But it's like I was trying to do work on my computer and ignore them and expecting them to play for hours without fights. And she was like, that's not realistic. Also, they need to learn. And so I had to get better about my time management and get better about getting in the room with them to say like, okay, no, what we're going to do is ask her for that. We're going to give her a turn, and teaching them how to share, because it was like, they're just not naturally going to play nice for that long. They're not.
No.
And it's
Nobody wants to
unrealistic.
share. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
No. And I think the big game changer for me was recognizing, like when I did start having 3 and 4, is the negative behavior was to get attention.
Yep.
And
Right.
So there was this vicious cycle of negative behavior. And so I started the whole mommy time. Have you heard about me talk about mommy time?
Yep.
10 minutes each kid, turn on a timer. We're doing whatever they wanted to do. You're thinking, Heather, you only spent 10 minutes with your kid. It's a lot. When you realize like most of the day you're just dealing with not really truly engaging or having.
And you had to do that 4 times. Thank you very much.
I'm just saying I did it. And it was very helpful for our relationship and to get through seasons where it just felt like I was in crazy land of like chaos all the time. Anyway.
Okay, as we transition to part 2, we're going to get into some really fun topics. Can we end yours with this? I would love, because I think we so often go to the negative sometimes. Would you just give me rattle off a few things that you absolutely love about having boys?
Well, we talk about their conflict, and what I think I've noticed with boys is that they get over it real quick.
Yep.
That sometimes I would be prolonging it by being like, what did you hear him say? And how does he feel? And they're like, Mom, we're already over it. Why are we still talking about it?
Yes.
So I can see how, and I see it with their friends too, with guy friends. Like it's a momentary explosion and then they just forgive and move on. That's great. I also think my crew, I don't know if this is true, all boys, they're real funny. So there's a lot of fun. They get in trouble a lot at school for being real funny.
Yeah.
Which is the downside. But I think, it's a lot of fun and energy. And I think the energy can be good if you embrace it. Like there would be times that I would start to feel like it rise up in me that something's wrong. And then I would thankfully stop and say, wait, are they laughing? Oh.
So good.
This chaos is actually okay because they're having fun. No one's getting hurt and it's okay.
I love it. So good.
How about you? What's great?
I have to think about that. It's terrible. Okay, I put words as far as they let us in. Like they tell me what's going on for the most part. There's some seasons where they pull back, but I have mom friends of boys that are like, can you tell me what's going on? Because my son is saying nothing. Like I do with drama and with lots of words, I do get the scoop on a lot of things. So I like their thoughtfulness. Like again, there's a tenderness and a nurturing aspect to females and to my kids that like, they're doing things for me or around the house or for their friends that's really special to watch. And
they
again,
learn that from you.
Well, you're sweet.
I mean, some of this is the model of the mom. So I'll just tell you, not all girls do that. Not all girls do that.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
Receive it.
I don't know. I just really loved all the girly stuff. Like I think again, growing up being a ballet teacher and like I have gone too far on obsessing over their outfits, but we really do bond over like what they're wearing and we'll get into this later, but it's not just, people look at the outward appearance. The Lord looks at the heart, really focusing on who they are and just confidence and being modest, like all that stuff. But we've had fun over the years. We also, gosh, I'm trying to think unique to the girls. Larson's hilarious. I'm telling you, if you got around Larson, you're like, she would have fit in right at home with your boys just because of her personality. But I don't know. There's something special.
We tried to match make, but I don't know.
David told me, we talked about this earlier. David Thomas and I said, like, we're not matchmaking specifically, but we have an approved pool, like an approved pool. Like Carrie Trotter's in that pool, David Thomas, you, like the kids can marry anyone in that pool, but we don't have to say specifically. So it's like, this is your group. You can choose.
I've got a lot in my pool. If y'all choose your age range, you need an older man, younger man. Come on. All right. Definitely check out the second half of our conversation on dating and dances and all the things over at Pardon the Mess later this week. Something to think about. One of the questions that Megan wrote for our podcast club is, what assumptions have you made about opposite gender, specifically when it comes to behavior? And did you get any new ideas on how to get kids active or how to work through conflict? And maybe it's a good idea to sit with God and ask him how you can approach each of your kids based on their birth order or their temperament or something unique about their journey. Which of your friends can you support better, knowing the challenges they may be facing in this season of motherhood? All right, I'm going to pray for us and all of these things. Lord, I love how you made every single person so unique that no two people are exactly alike. And I thank you that as parents, you are not surprised by who ends up in families together. I pray that we can love the people you've given us, that we can guide them the best we know how to do with who you made us to be. And I pray that more than anything, we would give ourselves grace in the process of becoming, our kids becoming, and us becoming moms. I pray that we could support our friends instead of judging or making assumptions of someone based on our own experience. I pray, Lord, that you would bring unity to moms across the world, that we could, Lord, see people with your eyes, see people how you see them, love others well as you instructed us, love you with our whole mind, heart, soul, and strength, and then love others as we love ourselves. And Jesus' name, amen. All right, I'll see you back here next week. I will be bringing on co-founder of Risen Motherhood, Laura, and we're going to talk through how to be a gospel mom. What does that even mean? And then in being gospel moms, how do we walk alongside each other in our differences? Kind of like I just prayed. So join me back here for that. And thank you again, always for sharing with your friends. All right, adios. Bye.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Don't Mom Alone podcast. If you're wanting to connect with more people and more resources to help remind you that you're not alone, head over to don'tmomalone.com. That's where you'll also find show notes with any links mentioned by our guests. Most importantly, I want you to know the good news, the great news that you're not alone because God has promised to always be with you. With faith in Jesus Christ, the one who died for you and rose again, Jesus said when he left, he was going to leave a helper, a comforter, to be with us. God in us. Moms, that's superpower. So while you're washing dishes at your kitchen sink, while you're driving to and from work, while you're feeding that baby late into the night, while you're cleaning sticky floors, God promises to be just as present with you as when you're worshiping in a church pew. As it says in Zephaniah 3:17, the Lord your God is with you. He is mighty to save. He takes great delight in you. He will quiet you with his love, and he will rejoice over you with singing. Now that's good news. Have a great day.